You know what my hope is today? I hope that you find many, many reasons to smile because you know what? It's the last couple days until the election, and there's a lot of noise. Okay, there's a lot of news. You're hearing a lot of stuff about Kamala Harris. You're hearing a lot of stuff about President Trump, and I just hope we could all kind of take a minute to just take a breath, right? Let the anxiety levels settle a bit. Let's all understand that yes, these things are important. Yes, these things matter, but the people in our lives, right? Our friends, our families, our local communities, those matter, those matter more. So let's not neglect that. Okay. Now, I do want us to go ahead and have some of these conversations today. I want us to talk about a really beautiful moment that I saw with RFK Jr. on Fox and Friends. I thought this was just so great. He actually reacts to something that President Trump said at Madison Square Garden. And I just think his reaction is so, so precious. So I wanted to talk about that. And I also saw this really incredible clip with Zachary Levi as he is with Megyn Kelly on her show. And he talks about this unity team. And he says that he's not voting for Trump, but he's really voting for this team of people, this collective of of thinkers and minds that are really going to change the world in the course of history from what I believe, from how I'm interpreting things. And I also see this is a poor moment from Kamala Harris at one of her recent rallies. And I think it's important to see. So we're gonna have those conversations as well as a couple other smaller talks at the end of this. So before we get started, please like and subscribe if you consume content here, if you like what you see, if you want to be part of this community that we're building. You know, recently I had a great comment. Someone was saying that like we're we're really building something special here. The people who come on these videos, the people who watch, the people who comment, I don't know, there's a tribe that's forming here, and I think it's so exciting. So I'm sorry for all the yapping. I went long today. So let's check this out. RFK Jr. on Fox and Friends, ladies and gentlemen.
Your uncle was president, 6% of Americans had chronic disease. Now it's 60. Add a zero to that. Yeah. You've talked a lot about this. You walked in here and you gave everyone in the audience these Make America Healthy Again hats. As a mom, as Americans, we appreciate what you're doing because we're getting older and we're thinking about we want to live a long life. We want to see our grandchildren. I want to see my grandchildren walk down the aisle. You go to Europe and you might eat pizza in Italy and you don't feel bad and you don't gain weight. We want to know why that happens here in America and what you're going to do. But first, let's play the soundbite. This is Donald Trump at the rally at MSG.
Look, we're not going to let him go too crazy, Elon, with the oil and gas stuff. And, you know, because Robert F. Kennedy cares more about human beings and health and the environment than anybody. And he's going to be absolutely, having him is such a great honor. I've been friends of his for a long time. And I'm going to let him go wild on health. I'm going to let him go wild on the food. I'm going to let him go wild on medicines. The only thing I don't think I'm going to let him even get near is the liquid gold that we have under our feet.
What was your reaction to that?
Well, he always says that. I mean, I get it. But, you know, what he's right is we have the sickest children in the world right now. There's nobody in the world that has that. When I was a kid, the autism rate among American children and in 70-year-old men today, in my generation, is 1 in 10,000. In my children's generation, it's 1 in every 34 kids, 1 in every 22 boys. And the diabetes, a typical physician when I was a kid would see 1 case of juvenile diabetes in his lifetime, or a 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids who walk through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic. And it's costing us $4.3 trillion a year. It costs we paid zero for chronic disease when my uncle was president. Today, it's the biggest expense, 5 times our military budget. It's easy to fix. We have 1,000 ingredients in our foods that are illegal in Italy and other countries in Europe. And the reason for that is corruption. at the food industry and the agriculture, big agricultural producers control FDA. And so they're not worried about public health. They're worried about advancing the mercantile interests of those corporations. And they've let them do things. You know, the companies, the big cereal companies, make two kinds of cereals. Like Fruit Loops in our country is just loaded with chemicals and food dyes that are carcinogenic, that they're going to cause ADHD in your kids. If you go across the border to Canada or to Europe, you have the same product, but it has no dyes in it.
Right.
It has good ingredients. So these companies know how to do it.
Right.
You know what I was thinking about the other day? I was thinking about how there are people in politics who love band-aid solutions, and then there are people in politics who actually try to solve the problem at the root. And I believe people like RFK Jr., he's trying to solve the problem at the root, because there would be people right now who, whenever he's like, oh, that right now, the rate of people who are getting diagnosed with ADHD is skyrocketing. It's insane, especially when you compare it to previous generations, right? So there's two paths of looking at this, or there's really two solutions. One is through medicine, one is through pills, one is through just kind of that's the band-aid, right? Like, oh, you're not normal, you have anxiety, you have ADHD, you have X, Y, and Z. Let's go ahead and take care of that through pills. And then RFK's perspective is no, it's because of the things we are consuming. It's because of the food. It's because there are large industries with that do not have the best interest of the American people. And that is the problem that we are trying to solve. And I just love this. I just love this idea. I love RFK Jr. I love what he stands for. I love this idea of just and this commitment that is making America healthy again. It just makes me so excited. And if you guys aren't familiar of this, because Kennedy just brought up like Fruit Loops from other countries, there's this clip that's absolutely gone viral. I'm not going to play it, but they compare what the Fruit Loops look like in the US and what they look like in Canada. And I know this is kind of a poor view, but I also brought it up. I also have this picture from Reddit that I saw. Like, look at this. It is absurd. Look how much more vibrant the American Fruit Loops is, and these are a little bit, they look drier. It looks as if I imagine this is what someone who's colorblind would see a little bit. It just looks as less vibrant, but I think that's okay because they naturally color this using dye from food, right? Like this is great. They don't need to use dye. They just need to use like fruits and vegetables, and that's how you get this color, and it's just better for you. And I just love that so much. And the other thing that I love is from Zachary Levi on the show with Megyn Kelly, and I thought this was absolutely fantastic. It's only a minute long, but it is so beautiful. And I personally feel represented in Zachary Levi whenever he's having this conversation, and I think a lot of people here would too. Check this out.
I'm not voting for Donald Trump. I'm voting for Donald Trump and Bobby Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard and Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk and JD Vance and everyone else that they're going to bring in this team, this Avengers, this Voltron, whatever you want to call it. And they're going to get in there and actually do what Donald Trump said he was going to do the first time, which is drain the swamp. And he has admitted that he couldn't do it and he didn't do it because he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't even think he was going to win the first time. And he had no time for his transition team. And then it was loaded with a bunch of sycophants and horrible people that were the swamp monsters that Bobby Kennedy has very accurately pointed out. And so now they're privately funding. I love this, that Trump is privately funding his own transition team, not waiting for the government. So they are ready to go and they are not compromised. That is the government that I want. That is something. Bobby is 100%. He and Tulsi are going to be let loose to be the bulldogs that we need to hold people to account. And by the way, and they will do it fairly. They will do it civilly. They will do it in love. I've sat with both of them. They are incredibly wonderful human people that really want, and which is what.
Oh my goodness. I almost shed a tear right now watching that video. Jeez, to hear the passion and the trust and the faith that Zachary Levi has on this team. I don't know about you, but it is wildly comforting, and it's also very, reaffirming, because this is what I've been talking about for the past couple months. This is kind of the alliance that we initially saw when RFK Jr. Decided to kind of get out of the ring and pat his hand behind President Trump, and now we're kind of seeing this have being the national conversation, the national spotlight. And I don't know about you guys, but whenever you look at any of these candidates, like you need to have faith in them, right? In the same way that so many people are voting for Kamala Harris because, they actually believe that she's the better candidate in terms of, the war in Gaza, and they just trust her to handle it more than they trust President Trump. Like, that's just an example. But the idea is that you need to put your faith in one of these candidates. You need to put your faith in that the candidate that you choose has the best chance to actually do the things that they say they're going to do. Because obviously there will be some resistance on both sides, but you have to believe that the person you're voting for is actually going to try. And whenever I personally look at people like RF Kennedy Jr., whenever I look at Elon Musk, whenever I look at Vivek, what's funny? Vivek was just with Charlie Kirk on they were doing, the Turning Point thing out at some university. And this student was saying, I can't vote for Trump. I don't trust him. I can't vote for Kamala. I don't know what to do. And Vivek so intelligently says, don't look at it necessarily as voting for Trump. Look at it. Oh, sorry. Charlie Kirk says this. Charlie Kirk says, don't look at it as voting for Trump, and don't look at it as voting for Kamala Harris. Look at it as through Trump, you're voting for 5,000 people who look like Vivek. And if you vote for Kamala Harris, you're voting for 5,000 people that look like Liz Cheney. And it's this idea that the person you choose on top has dramatic influence to choose the people who are actually going to be running things, the people who are actually going to be trusted to do the things that we actually need desperately in this country. And I just love that conversation so much. Now, some people probably aren't going to like that I brought this up, but we do talk about the highs and the lows here, and this is definitely a low for Kamala Harris, and it's been making its rounds all throughout X. This video alone has almost 5 million views, and this is a repost. So it's 25 seconds, and it is Kamala Harris just totally stumbling, losing her feet in the crowd here, and just check it out.
Okay, now I want each of you to shout your own name. Do that. Because it's about all of us. It's about.
So, just for further clarification, this crowd was chanting her name. They were so energetic. They had so much passion and energy in their heart and soul. And then Kamala Harris was soaking it in, and she decides to say, now shout your name. And the crowd goes silent. Like, look at this.
Now I want each of you to shout your own name. Do that.
That's insane. The crowd even puts their banners down. It's like they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what she was talking about. But I do think she kind of saves herself a bit, because she does say, because it's about all of us. And I actually like that. Check this out.
Because it's about all of us. It's about all of us. And listen, I have fought my whole career to put the people first.
So she definitely fell. But I do think she kind of picked herself up a little bit. If you ask me, that's kind of what I am seeing. But unfortunately, there is something else that has happened with Kamala Harris that I do not really appreciate, and I do think it's a big mistake. So there's been this controversy with the Joe Rogan podcast, and featuring President Trump, because apparently Google appears to be throttling it a bit on YouTube. And there's some speculation that it's being fabricated through the algorithm, and it's just not okay, right? That's what people are saying. Now, so because of that, Joe Rogan went ahead and he posted his entire episode here on X. It looks like it already has 11 million views / impressions, because that's kind of weird sometimes. But what I want to talk about was right underneath this post, because Joe Rogan talks about how Kamala Harris, that the podcast might still potentially be on the table. This is what he says. He says, also, for the record, the Harris campaign has not passed on doing the podcast. They offered a date for Tuesday, but I would have had to travel to her, and they only wanted to do 1 hour. I strongly feel the best way to do this is in the studio in Austin. My sincere wish is to just have a nice conversation, get to know her as a human being. I really hope we can make it happen. I hope he can too. Also, I just noticed that this post actually has way more views, not way more, but more views than the actual podcast above, which is really interesting. And you know what? I wasn't planning on talking about this right now, but I will say this: like President Trump's Joe Rogan YouTube video has like what 35, 36 million views on YouTube. It's a 3-hour podcast. That is insane. Absolutely unheard of. I actually think Kamala Harris's video would get more views. I do. Just because right now the pressure on Kamala Harris is so significant. The pressure for her to be perfect, the pressure for her to not make any mistakes, the pressure for her to run an entire presidential campaign in the span of what she only had 3 months. Really, the pressure is strong. Okay, so I do want to give her grace. I don't think I drink the juice that says that other people would have been better. I think other people would have had their challenges as well. I'm not saying Kamala Harris is perfect. I'm definitely not saying that at all. But we do got to understand that the life that politicians are called to live is heavy. Okay. But do I think that Kamala Harris could actually have a meaningful conversation with Joe Rogan? I do, and I don't think it's gonna be a gotcha, because even in this interview with, Trump and Rogan, he actually Joe Rogan, for a while, he says, I wouldn't try to interview her. I would actually just try to have a conversation with her." And I thought that was a great distinction. Okay, he says that. He says, "I wouldn't try to interview her. I'm not gonna try to get all these answers. I'm not gonna try to do these gotcha moments. I'm just going to try to talk to her. That's what I want. I wanna get to know her as a person." And I think that is great. You see here, get to know her as a human being. So I do think this could happen. I hope it does happen. Elon Musk responds to this, and Elon says, "Good clarification. I would definitely watch that podcast. Hour 2 would be," and has a melting emoji. Another person says, "America deserves 3 hours of Kamala with you in Austin. You would be fair and balanced." I think fair and balanced is the perfect way to describe it. Other people, however, disagree. We like talking about perspectives here, because I actually think perspectives give people more collected understanding of truth outside of our personal echo chambers. And I saw this today. Check this out. Has almost 2 million views. This person said, Joe Rogan expecting Harris to travel to his studio for a 3-hour interview in the last 7 days of the election is actually insane. I don't agree. I actually think it's radically important for Kamala Harris to do this. I made this quote tweet on Twitter. If you guys want to go and follow me there, why not? If you've been watching this for almost 20 minutes, you might as well go and follow me on Twitter. Okay, but I responded with saying Vice President Kamala Harris would be doing a huge disservice to the Democratic Party if she has the opportunity to have an in-depth conversation on the most popular podcast on the planet, and she doesn't take it. I end with saying all candidates should be meeting voters where they are. And today, that is with Rogan and his listeners. I deeply believe this. I remember earlier in this election, I made a post on Twitter and I was talking about how, in the same way that JFK used television to get elected, and in the same way that President Obama used Facebook to get elected in 2008. I believe that the president who's going to be elected in 2024 is going to be utilizing these mediums of TikTok, of clips, of the TikTok edits, as well as podcasts. And we see this heavy. That's why I call her daddy for Kamala Harris was such a big deal. And I really think Kamala Harris should do this. I think the Democratic Party deserves it. I believe the voters deserve it. And especially because we only had one debate between President Trump and Kamala Harris, I just think having a meaningful conversation with someone who is as balanced as Joe Rogan, I don't know. I'd love to see it. Now, the last thing I want to ask people who are watching is I saw this clip or this post from American Values, and they wrote, Kennedy supporters, 1 week away from Election Day, do you have confidence in the Trump/RFK Maha partnership? Okay, and that's the question that I also want to redirect to you to answer in the comment section if you are someone who is for this alliance. And also, I'd love to equally ask the people who are watching who are just, for Kamala Harris, because I know there's a lot of people recently who are genuinely for Kamala Harris, and I think that's great. I'm so happy you are here. And I'd love to ask you, do you think Kamala Harris should be going on Joe Rogan? Or do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comment section, and let me know what you thought about some of the other conversations that we had here today. And to the people who are kind of seeing through the person of Trump, and you're looking at the team being built, are you in agreement with Zachary Levi? Do you believe that it's more than just this person who you circle on the ballot option, or do you think it's the people who are also going to be side by side? And when I think of this, I just think of this in terms of leadership too. It's not just about the leader who's going in the direction. It's also about the followers who are moving side by side. And there's an argument to be made that those followers are actually going to have more influence because on your lives, right? Because you even have RFK Jr. here in the same interview, in the same Fox and Friends segment. You have him talk about how he actually takes a question from an audience member who asks him, like, what are you going to do to actually kind of make our lives healthier? And, or actually, no, to help schools. And he says, well, something we're going to do early on is we're going to just start restricting ingredients from that are entering the schools. And he's just so pragmatic. And now you can see that this will have a direct effect on your children's life. They're going to have a direct effect on any person, that any child that any grandchildren, any kids that are in school right now. That will have a direct impact on their lives. And again, it's not just Kennedy, it's Musk with his Department of Government Efficiency. It's going to be people like Vivek. It's going to be people like Tulsi. And I don't know, if you ask me, you know where I stand here. I'm excited about this, and I just love to see it. Anyways, those are the conversations that I wanted to have with you all today. Let me know what you thought about it. I spent so much in the comment section yesterday. I was so happy to connect with people, and I just love being there, and I love getting to do this, and I love talking with all of you. So please let me know what you think about these conversations, and I will get back to you, and I'll see you in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you find reasons to smile. Okay, I'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching and listening. I appreciate your time so much, and I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to support what we're building here, please like and subscribe. It means a lot, and it really helps us out. And if you want to see even more content from me, make sure to follow me on Instagram. I'm going to be sharing a lot more on there. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.